Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom called Monotonous Isles, there lived an 14-year-old king called King Wistful. The king had changed the name of the kingdom, which was once called the Cheerful Isle.
Everything in this kingdom looks so dull and ugly. It's the most wearisome place in this world.
The nurses and the counselors tried everything to cheer him up, but none succeeded.
5 round islands in a row. If only some of them were square, it would be something.
As the king stood and felt sorry for himself, he heard the sound of a little girl's voice singing a quaint song.
Sing song, don't be long. Wistful, wistful, come and play. Ting-a-ring, make haste, king. I've something really nice to say. Ting-a-ring, a proper king. Would not make me sing all day.
King Wistful, on hearing the song, was thrilled with excitement. He ran out of his palace and ran down the hill towards the voice. At the same instant, the little girl noticed the king and came running towards him.
What? Were you the one singing the song? Where did you come from? And who are you?
My! The king has so many questions. My name is Bright, and yes, it is I who is calling out to you.
Oh, but why were you calling out to me?
The magician who lives a little far away from here told me to sing the song for you.
I don't know any magician.
Really now? What is the use of being a king if you do not know everybody who lives in your kingdom?
King Wistful hung his face in shame.
Dear me, you aren't very happy, are you?
Why would I be happy in a sad and dull kingdom like this?
What are you talking about? Your kingdom is the nicest kingdom in the whole world.
Rubbish! You come up the hill with me, and I'll show you what the kingdom really looks like.
The king and the girl quickly raced to the top of the hill. Once they had reached the top, they looked at the kingdom.
There! Have you ever seen anything so dull?
Dull? Look how the sun gleams on the cornfields. And see the great red and blue patches of flowers.
Red? Blue? I see only gray flowers. Well, what about the sea? You must know that it never changes.
Oh, but the sea has so many different faces and ever so many different voices, too.
Are you a witch?
No, I am not. But if I were one, I would make you see things right instead of wrong. You know what? Why don't we go to the magician and ask him to disenchant you?
King Wistful did not think twice and at once agreed. The two ran down the hill and soon reached the banks of a charming river. There, a small round boat like a tub was waiting for them, and into it they both jumped.
This is so much fun.
You'll upset the boat if you don't sit still. Sit down and let me have the oars, and I'll take you down the stream.
You need not do anything of that sort, for this is the boat the magician gave me. And it always takes you wherever you want to go.
They just sat in the sunshine as the boat floated lazily along. They dabbled their hands in the water and luckily did not tumble into it while doing so. It was fun for both of them. When the boat stopped, they found themselves on the edge of the shore, and just a little way along the beach was the magician's abode. They walked to his cave, and finding the door open, the children went in.
Whoa! This is a cave?
King Wistful was awestruck by the beautiful interior of the cave when he suddenly spotted the old magician sitting in his armchair and smiling at them. Eye Bright ran up to him.
I brought the king to see you. Will you be a nice magician and disenchant him?
The magician stood up and shook hands with the king, just to make him feel at home.
You are very good children to call on me at tea time. I don't like having tea by myself. Now, would you like to have it on the floor, or shall I call up a table?
The king voted for the floor since he had always had his meals on the table all his life. But Eyebright wanted to see what would happen if they chose the table.
The table, please.
The magician nodded and stamped on the floor, and a neat little table, along with 3 little chairs, walked in at the door like any person, and stood in the middle of the floor.
Well, I never knew tables and chairs could walk.
What do you suppose they have 4 legs for?
The magician set to work and lighted the fire to make tea, and the 2 children went into his cupboards to grab the pretty crockery and tasty eatables. They were overjoyed to find the cupboard stocked with chocolate creams and plum cakes. The tea party was a delightful one. The magician and the children chatted about everything and anything, while sipping the hot tea and chomping on creamy cakes. Finally, both of them remembered why they had come to see the magician.
Mr. Magician, I need your help. There's something wrong with the way I see things.
Of course there is. The wimps threw dust in your eyes when you were a baby, so you won't see things in the same light as other people do.
What? Why did they throw dust in my eyes?
They weren't asked to your party when you were born, that's all. Wimps don't like that, and only they would know what to do. The best thing you can do is to go to Wimpland yourself and ask them to take away the spell. But mind you, it is a long way to go all alone.
I'll come with you. I've always longed to go to the other side of the sun. How are we to get there, magician?
Well, the usual way is to climb up a sunbeam, but I shall send you up in a flash of lightning.
He took down a large sack labeled Storms from the shelf and plunged his hand into it. Eyebright stood a little closer to the king than before, hoping that nothing would go off with a bang, and the king put his arms around her to make her feel comfortable.
I've got it in both hands, and it isn't going to strike anybody, so as long as you treat it kindly. Now, off you go in a flash.
But they had no time to see anything and found themselves on the other side of the sun. For a moment, they just lay where they had fallen without moving. Then they sat up and rubbed their eyes and looked round.
Oh, I had no idea it was like this.
Well, what do you think of it?
A wimp was standing on his head, which is a wimp's favorite way of resting his legs.
It's rather full of fog. Yellow fog, isn't it?
I don't think it is yellow fog. It is more like dull sunshine.
You're right. It's the folks from the front of the sun who call it yellow fog. They're blinded by their own sunshine. This is the back of the sun.
I think I like the bright sunshine best.
How silly. In Wimpland, you get all the advantages of the sun and none of the drawbacks. No sunstrokes or sunspots. How funny it is that you can't see it.
That's your fault. If your friends hadn't thrown dust in my eyes, I would see Wimpland in the bright light.
Oh dear. So you've come here to remove the spell. However, it can't be helped now. So you'd better go back again. It doesn't matter if you see things wrong.
But it does matter. And that's why we want you to take away the spell, please.
The wimp hopped from one leg to the other and thoughtfully came up with a solution.
There's only one thing to be done. You must exchange eyes.
The kids stared at the wimp and then at each other.
Very well. How is it to be done?
Quite easy. All you've got to do is to wish with all your heart to have the king's eyes instead of your own. And there you are.
Stop! If I take her eyes away, she will always see things wrongly.
The king had spoken too late, since Eyebright had already wished for the exchange of eyes. And before they knew it, her eyes turned deep blue and the king's eyes turned warm brown. The king was very furious at the wimp, while Eyebright was laughing happily with what had happened.
Look what you've done! She will see things wrong to the end of her days!
Don't be a foolish little boy. Take her home and try to see things right yourself.
Before they even realized, they were standing on top of the hill and looking down at the kingdom of the monotonous isles.
Oh, this is my kingdom? It's so beautiful. Look how the sun gleams on the cornfields. And see the great red and blue patches of flowers? Don't you think it's a beautiful kingdom?
Eyebright smiled in agreement. However, now she only saw 5 round islands in a row.
Yes, it is, as you say, a beautiful kingdom.
And thus they saw through each other's eyes. Over the years, King Wistful made Eyebright the queen of monotonous isles. And she wears a crown instead of a sunbonnet. She had selflessly given away her sight for King Wistful and was still happy, proving that the power of sincere and selfless love brings the deepest joy and true contentment.